Hello, Gene Schwimmer here. Welcome to today's vlog, which unfortunately is being recorded on a Friday, but you're seeing this on a Monday, which means that what I'm going to talk about today, as far as the news aspect, it's old news by now. By the time you're watching this, I'm talking, of course, about the killing of Iranian General Qassem Soleimani, who has been responsible for the deaths of 600 Americans and the wounding of many more. I think we could all be happy. Well, that's what I want to talk about today, that we should all be happy that Soleimani is dead, but a lot of our Democratic friends, I'm even starting to believe most of them, they are not happy. That's what I'm going to talk about today. Let's get into it, but I want to start first. Earlier today, I looked at the Rasmussen poll of likely voters, the 3-day moving average of likely voters for Trump's approval. I was wondering what it was after this assassination, even though this poll would have been taken before the news of the assassination came out. It'll be interesting to see what happens to these poll numbers next week. But as of today, Friday, the rating for Donald Trump, 50%. He's at 50% compared to 46% for Barack Obama at this point in his presidency, which is interesting to me because in the media they keep talking about Trump low approval ratings, but they never talk about, well, 50% is not low approval, number one. But number two, they rarely, if ever, compare Trump's approval rating with Obama's at the same point in his presidency, and Obama was reelected. So it gives me reason to believe that Trump will be reelected too, since his rating is higher. A lot will also depend on what follows now from the Soleimani killing. We all will be interested to see what happens. But I want to get into some stories here. I first want to get into something that both Trump and Pompeo have said. The killing, I thought at first was just revenge for the attack on the embassy, but they have both said, Pompeo and Trump, that Soleimani was planning future attacks, but that's all they said. No details, no information on what these attacks were. Well, I follow a website, Breaking Defense, that has a lot of, well, mostly about improvements to American defense capabilities, but they also sometimes have these other stories. And the one today is, well, put up the headline here, Israelis. Soleimani Intercept sparked drone strike, U.S. reinforces region. So the U.S. reinforces region. We're sending, last I heard, 3,500 more soldiers. But I want to talk about the first part, just quote briefly here. 5 days ago, an undisclosed intelligence agency intercepted a telephone call made by the head of Iran's Quds Force, Major General Qassem Soleimani, in which he was heard ordering his proxies in Iraq to attack the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad, which of course happened, as well as other Israeli and American targets with the aim of taking hostages, Israeli sources say. I don't think I'm going out on much of a limb if I guess that, and I could be wrong, but I'm just going to guess that the undisclosed intelligence agency was the Israeli Mossad, because they have the best intelligence in that area. And I don't mean that as an insult to the CIA. It's just a fact that the Israelis are in that neighborhood. They face an existential threat. They know their neighborhood. So when it's time to look at intelligence, I take the Mossad very seriously, and more seriously than the CIA, to be frank, because the CIA has made mistakes in the past, such as Iran's attempt to develop a nuclear weapon. You may remember the report they issued in 2005 that said Iran had abandoned their nuclear program. Obviously, that wasn't true. I also think that that was politicized. I think we have a politicized CIA. Well, I know now, I'm pretty sure, because of John Brennan and what has happened with Donald Trump, but I don't want to go off on that tangent today. It's just that I think the CIA in 2005, I think George Bush was planning to attack Iran, and the CIA wanted that stopped and issued this report that was deliberately slanted to make it seem as if Iran had abandoned their nuclear program to take away the basis for Bush to attack their nuclear installations. But I don't want to get off on that tangent either. So now I'll go on to, well, what I want to do today is I want to give you some things that you may not, and in fact probably did not get just from the mainstream media news reports, that would not have been reported over the weekend since the attack occurred on Soleimani. So here's one. This shows you the difference between Donald Trump and Barack Obama. I was taken aback when I read this story, but let me put the headline up. The Obama administration stopped Israel from assassinating Soleimani. When President Donald Trump gave the order to kill Iran's Quds Force leader Qassem Soleimani, he not only made an arguably proportionate response to the invasion of the U.S. Embassy this week, but he also reversed the policy of the Obama administration. According to a report from 2018, Israel was, quote, on the verge, unquote, of assassinating Soleimani in 2015, but Obama's officials foiled the plan. In fact, they reached out to Iran with news of Israel's plans. The Trump administration, on the other hand, gave Israel a green light to assassinate Soleimani, according to a January 1, 2018 report from the Kuwaiti newspaper Al Jazeera. The paper quoted a source in Jerusalem as saying that, quote, there is an American-Israeli agreement that, unquote, Soleimani is a, quote, threat to the two countries' interests in the region, unquote. According to Haaretz, that's an Israeli paper, Al Jazeera is generally assumed to be a platform for the Israeli government to disseminate its message to other Middle Eastern governments. So we see here the stark contrast between Donald Trump and Barack Obama. On the one hand, you have Barack Obama not only stopping Israel from assassinating Soleimani back in 2015, and who knows how many lives, American lives, could have been saved had Israel assassinated Soleimani back in 2015. But Obama not only prevented Israel from doing that, Obama tipped off the Iranians. And let's not forget, made this nuclear deal with them and sent a pallet of cash. Trump, to my knowledge, has sent no pallets of cash to Iran. He backed out of the deal. He's increasing the sanctions. But most important here is he gave Israel a green light to go ahead and kill Soleimani. Now, I want to bash our media, our mainstream media, a little bit, because I saw a tweet on my Twitter feed of a liberal showing a little video of big crowds of Iranians demonstrating against our strike on Soleimani, accompanied by a message that very clearly supported Iran over Trump. It said that Trump should not have done it, that he was reckless, that we're going to suffer all these horrible consequences. But what is really interesting is that there have been other reports in the mainstream media, but they don't mention that these crowds are probably paid crowds. Now let's see what other Iranians are doing definitely for free. Now, I don't know that the crowd was paid, but I do know that these Iranians that I'm about to quote from Twitter, they were not paid. There's a hashtag, I'll put it up on the screen. It's thanking Donald Trump. Iranians thanking Donald Trump for killing Soleimani. So let me just put up some tweets, and these will be representative, but you can go to the hashtag on Twitter and you could read many, many more. So here we go. Dear Mr. President Donald Trump, as an American Iranian woman, just wanted to say thank you. You are brave, courageous, and intelligent as hell. Another one. The best news I could have heard in 2020 is this, exclamation point. Thank you, Mr. Trump. As an Iranian, with all my heart, I thank you, Mr. President Donald Trump, for killing Qassem Soleimani. Right on, you President Trump. As I said, many, many more than that. That is what the real patriotic Iranians are thinking and saying, and maybe even doing so at some risk by putting this on Twitter. And I have one more tweet. I'll do it right now. Here's another tweet. This is interesting in that, well, let me show you a video before this one. This is Iraqis dancing in the street after hearing about the death of Soleimani. The mainstream media was showing videos of angry Iraqis angry at us, but those are the ones who are allied with and supported by, and in many cases paid by, Iran. But here is what other Iraqis are doing. Here's a video, Iraqis dancing in the street over Soleimani's death.
الساعة 4:30 احتفالات بمقتل سليماني. هذا حوبة الشهداء اللي راحت ودم الشهداء والضحايا والشهداء العراقيين كلهم طلعت اليوم.
And now the video that I had first mentioned before I remembered the video that I just showed you. But before I show this video, let me show you the tweet in which the video is embedded. Notice the first three words, me in Iran. Me in Iran when I find out that Soleimani has gone to hell. Play video. So when the mainstream media shows these videos of Iranians and Iraqis angry at the United States or statements from the Iraqi government, and I'm going to get to the Iraqi government, by the way, that's going to be at the end of this video, so stay tuned. But when you see those kind of videos, remember the two that I just showed you in Iraq and Iran. This is how the people really feel. Iraqis do not want to be dominated by Iran, and that includes Shiite Iraqis, by the way. They are Shiites as the Iranians are Shiites, but the Iraqi Shiites do not want Iran meddling in their affairs any more than the Sunnis do. And the Iranians have been demonstrating for months. And that's another contrast, by the way, since we're talking about contrasting presidents. Just compare Trump's support of the Iranian protesters to Obama's complete abandonment of them in order to make his terrible nuclear deal with the mullahs. The only criticism I have of Trump And it may be a criticism that I hopefully will have to take back someday. But my criticism is that Trump should order the U.S. military and the CIA to make contact with the Iranian resistance and give them training and weapons. I hope he'll do that. Now, I just showed you the reactions of the Iraqis and the Iranians. You would expect our reaction, the fellow citizens of all these Americans, 600 who have been killed and many more wounded by Soleimani, you would expect that every American would be cheering that. Well, you would be wrong, because, well, here's presidential candidate Elizabeth Warren, and her comment is typical. I could spend the next hour just putting up comments from Democrats, presidential candidates, representatives, and celebrities. Nobody has anything good to say about what Trump did. That's how much they hate him. But it's also interesting that they are faced with the dilemma of how to criticize Trump without showing support for Qassem Soleimani. It's really interesting to see them struggle, but they manage. I'll give them credit for that. Not all of them, though. But, well, here's Elizabeth Warren, presidential candidate Elizabeth Warren, and senator, right? Here's what she said, and her comment is pretty typical. Soleimani was a murderer, responsible for the deaths of thousands, including hundreds of Americans. But this reckless move escalates the situation with Iran and increases the likelihood of more deaths and new Middle East conflict. Our priority must be to avoid another costly war. Number one, I would say, why can't that be Iran's priority? To avoid a costly war, which will cost Iran a heck of a lot more than it would cost us. But this admonition against doing something that increases the likelihood of more deaths and more Middle East conflict, where has she been? What have we been seeing all along? Soleimani has been killing Americans literally for decades, but also remember again that Pompeo and Trump, and that earlier report that I read you from Breaking Defense, Soleimani was preparing to cause more deaths, more American deaths. He was going to do that, and imagine that Trump had done nothing. Imagine that Trump had done nothing and a great number of Americans had died or been taken hostage, according to that article. What would our Democratic friends be saying then? Of course they would be criticizing Trump. That is the problem that they have. That is what people are understanding increasingly, that it doesn't matter what Trump does. They're going to criticize him no matter what he does. They will never praise him for anything. And I would just add a little aside here that if things do escalate to the point where we have to go to war and Trump formally asks Congress for a declaration of war, it's going to be very interesting. In fact, I don't think it will even happen, but it's going to be very interesting to see the House not declare war, because it will be, they've refused to recognize that Trump has been showing restraint. He shows restraint. If he asks for a declaration of war, you can bet that he'll have the American people behind him. And I am fairly confident that the House will vote overwhelmingly to declare war. I don't know. Our Democratic friends, they paint themselves into these corners. It would be so much easier just to be patriotic and praise Trump for what he's done. But they can't do that. And if you want to see, I had to read this 2 or 3 times. I could not believe this. Well, as I've said, I don't watch TV. I don't even have a TV. I get news from the internet. I don't sit around for hours watching sitcoms and other. I just I just find it a waste of time. So I don't know who Rose McGowan is. It looks like she's a star or she's an actress on a show called Charmed. Maybe you know better than I do who she is, but I just want to put up a couple of tweets that she tweeted. Well, I'll just read them, and I report, you decide. Dear Iran, the USA has disrespected your country, your flag, your people. 52% of us humbly apologize. We want peace with your nation. We are being held hostage by a terrorist regime. We do not know how to escape. Please do not kill us. Well, working backwards, if you want to escape, the way to escape is to vote in November. And then you can vote to escape. But notice that it's Dear Iran, but Trump is a terrorist. The Trump administration is a terrorist regime. I don't get this 52% of us humbly apologize. I just don't understand that. I don't know how anybody could think that the majority of the American people did not think that Trump did the right thing killing Soleimani. In fact, even Democrats, well, this is really interesting too. I don't have the tweet or the article where the quote is, but one senator said regarding what Trump did, right decision, wrong commander-in-chief. In other words, he's saying that Trump did do the right thing. He should have assassinated Soleimani, but he's mad because it was Trump who did it. Wrong commander-in-chief. If Obama had done it, well, that would have been great. But Obama would not have done it. That's the dilemma that they're caught in. Or this guy, anyhow, this senator, whoever he is, I don't remember who it is. Anyways, somebody, second tweet, this is really two tweets, one embedded in another. Somebody replied to that first tweet, and then Rose McGowan replied to that. So from a tweeter, Jessica Fletcher, you think Iran gives two craps what some girl from Charmed, I guess that's a TV show, Charmed, says? You're not taking one for the team. You're betraying the ones killed by terrorists to defend your freedom. And as you can see here, what Rose McGowan tweeted back, blank your freedom and shove it up your MAGA ass. That is how extreme some of our friends, unfortunately, on the left are. Now, nearing the end, I want to quote somebody, Michael Pregent, or Michael Pregent. I've only seen the name in print, so forgive me, Michael, if you're watching this, if I pronounce your last name wrong. But he is talking about the conduct of the Iraqi government. His belief, which I share, that that attack on the embassy would not have happened without at least the quiet looking the other way-ism of the Iraqi government. But definitely Iraq has not done anything to protect our people there. That's number one. And number two, they are complaining about us even being there, about our soldiers being there, even though we liberated their country from Saddam Hussein. And he is echoing something that I said. I was going to do a vlog on this, but I'm doing it now, I guess. But as far as talking about it, Michael Pregent beat me to it. He is saying that we have to deal with the Iraqi government, and he's laying down some suggestions for how to do that, how to read them the Riot Act and tell them that they better support us. I'll read some quotes, and then I'll get to his suggestions. Here's the headline, Michael Pregent, in Iraq, U.S. should take these 6 actions. We can't allow it to become an Iranian puppet, which is the issue, that the Shiite majority Iraqi government is a little too cozy with Iran. We have to stop that. He's going to give some suggestions, but let me give you the little preliminary first. After the tremendous sacrifices America made to liberate Iraq from the rule of brutal dictator Saddam Hussein and end his threat to other nations, we must not allow Iraq to become a puppet of the virulently anti-American dictatorship that rules Iran. Now he gives a little of his own background, which is why we should take seriously what he says. I fought in Iraq as a U.S. Army intelligence soldier in Operation Desert Shield and Desert Storm in 1990 and 1991, and was there again from 2005 to 2006 as an embedded intelligence advisor for the Iraqi Army in Mosul, followed by service in Iraq for the Defense Intelligence Agency. I have been back many times in my capacity as a terrorism expert for the National Defense University and a senior fellow for the Hudson Institute. Now we get into his recommendations. It's clear to me that we need to reevaluate our relationship with the Iraqi government while supporting the Iraqi people who have been protesting against corruption by their government and its dangerous move from an alliance with America into ever closer relations with Iran. I'm not calling for the U.S. to attack the Iraqi government militarily and launch another war. We can improve the situation there in far less costly ways. And here are his 6 suggestions. I'm linking to the article so you can read his commentary with each of these suggestions. I'm just going to give you the list of suggestions. First, the Trump administration should tell the Iraqi government we will cancel $30 billion in U.S. loan guarantees unless it stops cozying up to Iran. Second, the U.S. should threaten to stop providing training and equipment to an Iraqi security force co-opted and infiltrated by militias tied to Iran. Third, we should sanction Iraqi government and militia leaders who are loyal to Iran and hostile to America. Fourth, we must keep U.S. troops in Iraq just as we are keeping troops in Syria. Fifth, we should aid the Kurds in the enclave they control in northern Iraq and Iraqi nationalist forces opposed to Iran. And finally, sixth, next time pro-Iranian militias attack U.S. forces in Iraq, we need to be prepared to punish Iran directly by hitting the Revolutionary Guards and its Quds force. I would also just add to that, there is another article by Pregent where he suggested, in tune with this last suggestion to attack Iran directly, that if the Iranians keep escalating, his suggestion was, well, first of all, destroy a large part of their navy. That was number one. But he also published a map. Well, you know what? I have the map. I'll put up the map. Here is the map of several potential targets which we could destroy from the air without having to put a single American soldier into Iran on the ground. I would also add to that, personally, the oil refineries. The Iranians may have their nuclear facilities hidden well underground, but I think we can and should hit those too, my personal belief, and we may have to at some point, unless of course the Israelis get there before we do. And I think we should give them all the weaponry that they need to do the job and just let them do it. But I just wanted to mention for now that these oil refineries are above ground. They are easy to hit, easy to destroy, just as it would be poetic justice, too, to destroy their oil refineries just as they hit that Saudi oil refinery. I think it would be a very nice fireworks display, too, to watch. If you're missing all the fireworks that you saw for New Year's Eve, you want to see some more, that would be some nice entertainment for you. And that's it for today. Thanks as always for stopping by. Thumbs up if you like this video. Share it with anybody you think would also like the video. Got any comments? You can put them in the comments section below the video. Same place you could put questions if you have any questions for me that you would like me to answer, that I hope I could answer. Suggestions for future topics. You can also subscribe. I love getting new subscribers. And finally, come back and see me again. I look forward to seeing all of you again. And until I do see all of you again, bye.